Pensado's Place is brought to you by
one of our most requested guests ever. You are going to meet an absolute beast. We got a brand new ITL. David, you ready to roll?
I am ready, my friend.
You're at the place, baby. It's Pensado's Place.
Yeah. Happy. What's that?
That we are.
An obscure reference there. I can do it in Spanish too.
No, that's okay. Stay right here.
Hey, everybody! Thanks for dropping by. We're gonna have a great time today. I can anticipate that already. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. It continues to be fortuitous weeks in the world of Pensado, right?
I don't know. I'm doing this rocking thing today.
Well, because the show's rocking, so you're the metaphor for that. How was your week? Good week?
Well, you've known me for since the 1920s, and you know that everything in my life is evaluated by my mix work. So if I had a good mix, it was a good week.
This is a good week.
It was a good week.
You've been rolling, I must say.
I got to tell you, I've rarely ever been happy with my work, and I've been getting closer.
I know I'm not objective. I'm a little biased, but you have absolutely been smoking. This new room has been a godsend, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do when you can hear. You think such a simple concept would have not eluded me all these years.
Well, before you were mixing like a vocalist, you would mix like this.
You know what? Cole and I are working on these little ear splints that kind of push your ear out like
Forward.
this.
That's a nice thing.
Yeah, and then do that. You can hear better.
Let's see.
Check.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
It's going to be the new thing. It's going to take the world over.
Can we merchandise it?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Well, I got logo space on the back.
Okay, cool. We'll put logos on the back of our ears.
Save us, man. We're bombing.
Let's go to the good stuff so we can get on with the show. What do you think?
Finally, yeah.
Good deal. Guys, good to see you as usual. Always great to be here. We are broadcasting, of course, from the Art Institute of California in Los Angeles.
Yes.
In our beautiful HD studio, which Dave says stands for
Herbert and David.
Herbert and David. By the way, team, please like and subscribe like you've been doing it.
Yeah, it's very important.
We are on our march to 40,000 subscribers. You guys make that happen. It's super important, and Dave and I are indeed grateful.
Yeah.
How about our friends at Vintage King? We are in some very interesting discussions about the incredible cultural mecca of Nashville.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it. It's driving me crazy.
Well, I can.
A little.
I've always maintained that probably the best musicians in the world live and work in Nashville. It's humbling what comes out of Tennessee.
No doubt.
When you think of Memphis and then a couple of states down, you got Muscle Shoals. That region has just produced what we call field came from that region and those players.
That's
Spectacular talents there. I've seen guys make an entire record in a day without ever hearing the songs before. And lead mix, done, written, everything.
Well, we can't quite talk about it yet. It's humbling what's being discussed with us. Stay tuned, everybody. We are our latest piece of craziness is being discussed, and I am hell-bent to make that happen, and it shall, and then we'll let you know. It's going to be very, very special. A very quick shout-out to one of our buddies at Vintage King, Tommy Memrith, who is just a great guy.
Tom.
So hugs to your mother, Tom. We talked about it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So
I got a shout-out.
Sure.
Bobby Ozinski dropped by with the new Mix Engineer's Handbook, in which I think I'm about 85% of the book.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Or was it 0.8%? I can't remember. Anyway, I got a page or two in the book. It's number 3, and it's all updated, and I've got a copy. It's really good. Bobby's amazing.
Bobby's a great writer.
And then also, these guys from the Center for Recording Arts and Technology out of San Diego, they love the show. Some teachers dropped by to say hello, so I just want to give a shout out to their students.
Oh, great.
And I think that's it for my shout outs.
We love our educational folks.
Oh, I got one, but Mike and I are going to do it together.
Okay, good.
We worked out a routine.
Good. Moving forward to our avid friends, we're about 3 weeks away or so from our Pro Tools show.
That's going to be good.
We're going to do some special things about
I like
that.
to think about it as a DAW show, because when you got that caliber of talent, minus me, those guys, it's
And
I learned so much.
I think what we're going to do is maybe shoot that in your room in a special way, like we discussed yesterday.
That'd be great.
Okay. So you'll lead a team of experts. We'll do a deep dive on Pro Tools and DAWs
Experts
and so
plus
forth.
Dave.
Experts plus
Just to
Dave.
clarify.
Absolutely. So that's going to be a good thing. Let's talk very quickly about how cool Capitol was this weekend.
Oh my gosh,
Al
Herb. It
Schmitt's
was
thing.
like it was one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had. I don't get to touch too many microphones. I don't get to record too much anymore because I just strictly mix. But to see a master, to see someone at Al Schmitt's level apply his craft and to do it so. When you hear the saying, he made it look easy, this guy made it look beyond easy.
So here's what it was. Al had a big band, I don't want to call it a seminar, but they essentially recorded a big band album and then mixed it the next day. People got to attend, and you're seeing some pictures about it right now. I know my reaction, you went Sunday, I went Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
My reaction when I went in, literally when I got to the doorway, was, you know, when you're in the presence of master stuff going on. This was a whole other level. It was the most intriguing thing to watch. The talent level across it, all in this historic studio, was really amazing. It was
there were several impressions that I walked away with. One, I've never seen anybody focus like Al. When he was sitting there at the board, I swear the building could have collapsed around him
it's humbling.
and he'd still be focused.
Yeah, no doubt.
I never saw anything like that. And then I always thought to get isolation, you had to work in cardioid, hypercardioid mode with microphones. He had 39 microphones, 16 musicians, all in Omni.
Whoa.
And you know what's so amazing, Herb? When he turned the sax solo up, all you heard was the sax solo go up. And I asked him, how do you do that? And he said, well, first of all, you got to have great mics. And then I said, yeah, but all that ambience. He says, well, you go for great ambience too.
Wow. That's
so casual.
Yeah, just right there. Just brilliant. That easy.
And Herb, he did it. He recorded all of that without touching an EQ, and he mixed it without touching an EQ. All mic placement. And I said, Al, how many mics did you move around? He goes, I don't know, maybe one or two. Like, what a dumb question, Dave.
You know what?
I'm Al Schmitt. I don't have to move them.
Here's what's funny.
But he did slide some musicians over like 5 feet.
Right.
No mics.
I walked in all pensadoed up, and we were being treated special. I walked out with my tail between my legs because he was just such a master.
Oh, my goodness.
It was incredible. So
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Great shout out to them. We'll find out what they're going to do with that stuff.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I was wondering.
All right, let's move on. We've got all our business tidied up. We're good to go. Sir, introduce our ITL.
This one's kind of unique. I was just in a distortion frame of mind, so this is some fun with distortion, I guess we'll call it. What's up? Sometimes we automatically think that there's certain parts of the audio process that are always negative, but there's nothing negative, there's nothing positive. It's just what feels good, and whatever feels good, that's what you use musically. Now, we've got certain tools available to us that we don't really sometimes think we have. One of them is clipping. We know that distortion can be good and bad. We've talked about how that can help your ear find basses and tracks. We've talked about all sorts of things. I was recently given this sound, here again, on a D-Mechanic record, and I really liked the sound. I just couldn't get it to cut through. So what I did was I massaged it, and when I was given it, it was at 0. Let's go back to 0 and let's check it out. Okay, it's supposed to be an explosion. Now, explosions are supposed to give us a feeling that this thing is massive. So let's kick it up. So now I'm clipping. Oh, see how automatically it just sounds better. Now let's make it mess up even more. So that is so good. So wrong, but so good. Isn't that a country song? Okay, now I'm gonna really do some crap to it. Okay, hear it now? Hear that tear on the top? It sounds like fuzz on the top. Now, let's get even more. It's America, man. If a little's good, more's better. You notice I'm going up 6 dB here. Now, we might not need all that fuzz. Let's take a little of the fuzz back out. Okay. We can go down a little bit. Smooth as a baby's ass. All right, now, in the track I wanted a little more distortion, so this is just a bit crusher. Cool, huh? Man, sometimes it's the simple things that make you happy. Next time.
Enjoy that ITL, put it to good purposes, and we must tell you, for Dave and I, we've been wanting this guy for a long time, and he has graciously accepted our request. Writer, producer, player, the incredible Mike Elizondo. Mike, welcome, bro.
Hey, thank you for
How are
having
you,
me.
man? You good?
Right. Yeah.
The audience can't see it, but he got a standing ovation.
Well, you know, the reason it took so long, I was waiting for the check to clear.
There you go.
So
Yeah,
we're all
our checks
straight.
clear slowly.
I got the text. We're good to go.
All right, good deal.
He got a check?
Don't
Where's
tell
mine?
anybody else. Yeah, we didn't get one. I got to get them one way or the other.
I think he owes us money.
Yeah, definitely.
Commission.
Mission hell.
Fire away, sir.
Man, when I think I want to learn songwriting, working for Dr. Dre just doesn't pop in my mind immediately. Like you've spoken in the past of your work with Dr. Dre, and that experience has made you a better songwriter. Can you jump in and just clarify that?
Yeah, I'd say working with Dre, it just taught me. He's taught me how to get to the point. Whether it's production, whether it's what parts get used in a track, and the lyric and the melody. He just doesn't. He's just
efficient.
yeah, and it's like there's no extra fat, you know.
Yep.
So working with Dre and just watching how he would put tracks together and work with artists and what lyrics and how long things should be, arrangements, all across the board. You know, the actual from the beginning of what the track feels like and how the tempo should feel like, all the way through how long the verses should be. Does it go straight to a chorus? Do we need a pre-chorus for the second verse only? You know, all those types of things were things that I watched working with him and
How long
saw
were you
come
with him?
together. I want to say it was almost 11 years.
Wow.
Close to 11 years. So it was an incredible
Did that
time.
process affect your songwriting in terms of efficiency?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many. I think it's hard to even count how many things I learned from that period.
Yeah.
I think it was just being in an environment of such high quality and high expectations, day in and day out.
Yeah.
That has just rubbed off on me, and it's something that I hold myself to, and it's something that I try and impose on anybody, any writer or musician or artist that I'm working with.
You know what I find fascinating as just a fan of Dr. Dre's work, who I think is one of the all-time greats ever, is he will bury you with hooks in a track, and you just don't even know why you're seduced. He had you hooked so many different ways that by the time you get to the chorus, it's almost overload. Like you can't, right?
Absolutely, no. I mean, it's everything from the drum patterns to little hi-hat things he'll do every 4 bars to what the bass line is when the note cuts off. Like all these things that just become memorable if you just focus on one thing. All the way up to the vocal and keyboard hooks that come in only on certain sections. So he's a master at just arrangements, no filler, just the essential ingredients of making a hit song and making something feel and sound great.
I had California Love on one day on Mulholland and damn near drove off the thing. It was just, there's so much going on.
It puts you in a trance.
It does.
You get
You're hearing the words and stuff that's put in the back. Yeah, just.
Hold on.
It's Dre's
City of Compton. Okay, go ahead.
It's Dre's club culture. He comes from the clubs. You know. And so he knows when he was a DJ, he knew what worked and he knew how to grab people's attention, and that I believe is where it started with him, and I think it evolved into how he makes records.
Makes sense.
One of the things that I always take away from Dre's productions and songs is the bass lines, and he's worked with a long lineage of great bass players, of which you were a great bass player. Is that how you got into the fold?
I met Dre as a bass player for hire, basically. Richard Heredia, a.k.a. Seagal, you guys know. I went to high school with Seagal, and he rose from, intern at the studio to Dre's engineer very quickly. And Dre, I hit him up for, some musician recommendations, and I was fortunately on that list of a bass player to try out. And this is right around when Aftermath just started. Like he had just, worked out that deal through Interscope and was just getting things off and running. I want to say he put out his compilation Aftermath Presents record, and he released that single "Been There, Done That" and all that stuff. But just after that is when I came on board, and I was just there as a hired bass player for him. He also used to have a couple of other producers that had different rooms, so I would just hang out, and I'd get paid couple $100 for every song I played on. So as many songs as I could drum up in a day, it was a good day, 4 or 5 tracks, that still is no joke.
Getting close to rent.
Exactly.
That's
so I just hung out as much as I could, and eventually he kind of trimmed it down, and fortunately I still made the cut, so I was there as a bass player. He would bring in on a lot of the sessions, that he was working on, and I just...
like a pro athlete camp.
What was the first big record that you played on that... I should know this because we were.
First big record to me that I played on was actually a record that didn't sell a lot, but it was big in the sense that it was called The Firm, and it was Dre collaborating with Nas and AZ and Foxy Brown.
Wow.
And we did this one track called Phone Tap that still to me is one of my favorites. I was playing upright bass on it actually. And I just had this like mafia gangster kind of like crazy tango kind of vibe. And I was like, man, this guy is a genius. Like, how could he pull those elements together and make a track? Yeah. It's just very simple, and for me, it was the first big thing because it was one of those things where the record came out, and all my friends and cousins and relatives were like, man, your name's on that record, So that was the beginning of it, and then it just ended up being a big, just waterfall. All kinds of stuff started flowing after that, and soon after that is when he signed Eminem. And we got to work on that first record, and that was a big deal, obviously. And then, Dre's 2001 record coming out was also pretty
incredible.
Huge.
Yep.
On Slim Shady, you played live bass on that?
I did, yeah.
Did you double it with a synth bass?
You know what? I'm trying to think. I don't think we did that much. Sometimes what we would do is actually, just for some grit, we would double it up with the low end of the Fender Rhodes. But on that record, on the very first M record, I don't think we did. I want to say like on... My memory's kind of hazy.
In the club you did though, right?
In the club, I want to say that was all synth bass, but it was live guitar. That was the thing with Dre, and I love him for this. He always loved mixing live performance with sequence, elements. So sometimes you'd have obviously a sequence beat, and within that beat, certain elements were quantized, certain elements weren't, and then you'd have a sequence keyboard part, but mixed with a live guitar part or mixed with a live bass part. And you just get this, this amazing, even if you're trying to play it exact, the human element finds its way onto the track and it just creates this sort of ebb and flow of the feel and the groove. And I don't know, it's still one of the things that I love doing to this day,
Amazing.
A long time ago, Mike, you said something that stuck with me. You said that being a bass player gave you a different perspective to producing because as a bass player you have to be aware of the rhythmic elements and the harmonic elements in a song. As a guitar player, I'm mostly aware, obviously, of rhythm, but we work with chord changes. Yeah. You guys have it easy. You just don't really have to play that. So you're the guy that glues. I think you said you're the guy that glues the rhythm to the melody. Yeah. And that gave you. You felt that gave you a head start in your production world.
Whether I knew it or not, I think it was just an instinctual thing that I did early on, as I'm listening to records and trying to figure out what my voice is as a bassist. As I started playing in bands, I started to realize the importance of obviously note choice and note length and how you attack things and how to help make things break down, how to build things up, and just subtle changes in your playing, how that affects the way the drummer will play or the way the guitar player play or ultimately the way the singer sings, and they all react differently. Right. And I felt like the bass, it subliminally did that more you know, it just had more of an impact than I think any one instrument does. But what I think it did is it established me to just sort of have a broader perspective in how to hear how everything's working with each other, and the way everything blended together. So even while I was playing in bands and we're rehearsing, a lot of times I would just sort of, you know, I would instinctively say, okay, well, what if you played it a little bit more like this? And I'm listening to the way the guitar is reacting to the hi-hat, and then the bass is reacting with the kick and the snare. And I would always make suggestions with the bands that I play with. So I think that just sort of rubbed off. And then once I met Dre, who's got a hypersensitivity to what the bass's role is in every track, it really instilled in me like the importance of what a bass player does, whether it's live bass or synth bass or whatnot. But I think there's a reason, you know, also going to your question about sort of going from bass player to producer, you've got so many amazing people who've done it, you know, everyone from Marcus Miller, Larry Klein, you know, I mean, the list goes Don Was. I mean, there's so many incredible musicians that, you know, Bernard Edwards, you know, so there's a thing about bass players, I think also that there's a, we typically don't have the biggest egos in the room. I think we sort of pick the bass because we like being in the background and not drawing support. Yeah, not drawing attention
but
to ourselves. But
bass,
also wanting to be involved in supporting everyone else to shine. And I think that's just sort of a trait. You know, I'm also a big believer in that your personalities guide you to your instruments. You know, you meet certain people that you go, yeah, he's definitely a drummer, or he or she's definitely a singer, or whoever. And so I think bass players gravitate towards that instrument because of a certain personality trait that we all sort of carry.
Yeah, you know, carrying that metaphor somewhat further, horn players have to register. Horn players have to register pretty much everywhere they go. I made myself laugh.
And that's probably about the only person. Mike's being nice. We can edit it. Right?
Brian's got to earn his money. Man, I started out with Richard Wolf. You started out, I guess you kind of started is the wrong word, but with me, my first gig in LA was with Richard Wolf, and we had a good run, a lot of #1 records, and that's how you and I met.
It is how we met, I mean, meeting Richard Wolf was great in the sense that it was the first opportunity of working with a producer, making an album. You know, I was in the band Buddha Hat, which and it eventually got signed to Atlantic. No one's ever heard of it, obviously, you know, but you guys can, I don't know if there's
It never
posted.
came out?
Record never came out, you know, and I want to say this was, what, 96-ish, maybe?
Probably. I can't remember.
I think it's somewhere around 96. In any event.
A piece of trivia, I mixed that record in the same room Andy Wiles worked in.
Over at Encore in Burbank.
I couldn't make heads or tails of that room, but I guess it sounded...
No, you know, listen, it was an amazing opportunity to basically, even though the record never came out, I look back at it at so many people that I met. You know, I met Rob Cavallo, Craig Kelman, Randy Jackson, you obviously. So many people that even still to this day that I have relationships with. And it was also, so making the record, learning about music production, learning about publishing, record deals, you know, all of this. It was like a crash course in all of it.
You make a really interesting point that our audience may or may not know, and if they get to the level that you guys and we are fortunate enough to be at, the accidents are as important as the ones that are planned. You meet, you learn something, you find something else that you never intended to, that ends up being formative as you go forward, and you got to put yourself out for the accidents. You can't let an accident throw you. It's going to be a good thing.
You just got to be out there doing something.
You got to be busy, man. You got to get off the bench.
And that was my thing. My main thing was I knew I loved music, and it didn't matter whether I was playing bass. By this point, I just knew I wanted to be involved in making music somehow, and ultimately the bass is what opened the doors, and then it was up to me to just sort of naturally gravitate towards the people that I felt, you know, compelled to be with and around, and that I could learn from. And fortunately, people like Dr. Dre, kept me around for as long as they did. But you know, even the production coordinator of that album, her name is Valerie Pack. Valerie introduced me to people like T-Bone Burnett and Glenn Ballard, Matthew Wilder, Matt Wallace.
Serious.
I mean, all these, were producers that, even though it was right around the time I started to work with Dre, but these were other guys that were making serious records.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I got to basically go in and be a fly on the wall and get paid to do it by playing, the bass. And so that was huge. And that was, it was a big, pivotal moment for me being in that band, for sure.
Mike, you were describing some of the things you learned from Dre, and I was sitting here thinking, well, that would apply to any kind of music. Well, that particular skill set you could make a Miley Cyrus record with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm leading up to a big jump, so you guys hang on. We're going to go from Dr. Dre to Mastodon, which is a huge jump, but it really isn't a huge jump because it's the same techniques.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I listen, and to sort of backtrack a little bit, the first bands that I was ever in were metal bands. And it was around the time of the late 80s, early 90s. And, so everything from Maiden to, obviously Sabbath, and Judas Priest, and Metallica, early Metallica, had a huge impact on me, and if you wanted to be in a band, it's kind of the go-to place. And it's just that music and that energy just really spoke to me. So by the time I got the opportunity to work with some rock bands, and especially got groups like Avenged Sevenfold and Mastodon, I was ready. I felt like I had a history of that music that I loved and wanted to sort of almost reintroduce. I mean, I almost kind of, metal kind of has gone, as all genres do, has different evolutions.
Changed, sure.
And there were things that I felt that genre of music was kind of sonically, arrangement-wise, whatever you want to call it, just production-wise, that I thought were missing, that I was holding on to from my youth, and the way records impacted me. So working with guys like Avenged Sevenfold and Mastodon especially were great opportunities to apply a lot of what I had learned making records with Dre, but in a rock, and heavy metal situation.
On the Mastodon record, on The Hunter, it's the name of the album, man. The song The Hunter. I love what you did on that record.
Thank you.
Are the drum? It has an analog feel to it. Did you use tape on that record?
You know what? It seems like we did. If we did not use tape at all.
Oh, really?
But I think what we did is we utilized as much analog equipment as possible and just put ourselves in situations to capture performances. And I think that's, we would use Pro Tools, but almost the same way that you would use a tape machine. And within that, we went for performances and we didn't look to get 4 bars and then grid it up, And you're dealing with master, virtuoso musicians. And so, it's about just getting...
Did you do that at Sound City?
We did the drums at Sound City, which was incredible. And I have a long history with Sound City, both as a bass player and just doing different sessions there with a lot of different people. So obviously Sound City, as now we know through the documentary, it's a magical place.
Magical.
Yeah. And I kid you not, I mean, you put an incredible drummer with great drums in that room, and it's just, you're like, how does this happen?
It's unbelievable.
And it's a combination of that room and that Neve board that just, you just kind of make sure you don't mess it up,
Exactly.
And you just try and
Get out of the way
capture.
of it.
You just capture what you capture. And Bron, the drummer of Mastodon, he felt the same way, But the idea was to go in there where the whole band can set up, have enough room to have amps and everything. Focus was the drums. But we tried to just give Bron as much support and energy for him to just get, live takes, and I think we achieved that. And then every step of the way, we just made sure we were getting, using vintage mics and mic pre's and compressors, and I think the end result does feel analog, but I think it's more a testament to them as players and writers and the ways that we captured it. But the end result was, ended up on Pro Tools.
That low note synth that starts that song off.
Yeah.
I mean, when my assistant Cole and I heard that, we were like, "Oh man, this is incredible!" It was like we were on the big speakers at the time at my studio, and it just epitomized everything about metal. But you don't normally hear a big synth start off a metal song.
No, it's true. I mean,
but power's power.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity of working with Dre to learn about sounds and how things affect. And like you say, the power and what brings power to a track. And they had this song, and it was screaming for that sub and that low end, and I don't impose anything like, well, hey, I got to play something. It's just one of those things that it naturally evolves into like, hey, let's try this sound and see, and then I try and see how the band might react, and if they love it, then we know we're going to keep it, you know. But that sound in particular was actually, it started as a sound. A patch from Omnisphere, but I love tweaking with stuff. So I'm always adding, weird plugins, or I also have a lot of times I have like, a line that can feed to pedals, in the real world, take it out of virtual world. run it through a pedal and then run it back in.
You used a wah-wah pedal on that.
Yeah, we used wah-wah pedals. We would use just
Nice.
crazy fuzz pedals,
Yeah.
Devi Ever pedals, like all kinds of boutique random things that you add something from the virtual world, and it's almost, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but to me, I love taking stuff in the virtual world, running it into the real world,
Yes.
pedals and effects,
Yes.
and then running it back.
Yep.
It's something that I do a lot,
Yep.
for sure.
You have in your production styles and your writing style, you tend to have a balance. Like if you've got a big, just badass sound, then you put these nice little chorusy guitars next to it. What did you use on those to get the chorus on those guitars? Was that a mix thing, or did you get fed?
No. I want to say, yeah, we used a classic jazz chorus,
the Roland
the JC120, right? Yeah, I mean, those are just. It doesn't get more clean
But
and
that's
crystal.
not a metal amp.
Yeah, you know what? Metallica would use them though. But and there's ways to you get that clean, that sparkle. And then I think we also put a little bit of the Eventide, the H3000 harmonizer, just sprinkle it in there, just to give it some, some like otherworldliness. But I mean, listen. I am a student of records, and I listen and study all the classic records, and still to this day. And I'm like picking apart records, and everything I do, I feel like I've stolen from somebody. And these are tricks that all the greats I feel have used, and I've just tried to like pick and choose. But it's just things that I listen to and store somewhere in the back of my head. And,
See, in the future, you don't have to say stolen. You can say, I'm standing on the shoulders of.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it can get you in trouble.
Well, the rule of thumb is if you borrow something from someone and you sell more records than they did, then you were influenced by them.
There you
if
go,
you sell less records, you stole it from them.
I stole it, right.
So you were influenced by
If you run to a jam, call us. We got you.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And then when those just ugly ass guitars come in, they're so big and nasty and wide. What amps was he using?
You know what? We had a few different things. It was everything from modded JCM amps to and both guitar players in the band, both Bill and Brent. I mean these guys have tons of stuff. But I want to say one of the pedals that we used a ton was the Distortion pedal, which good luck finding that if you can. But it was a pedal that a fan of Mastodon's who made pedals basically made it for Brent, and it's that with some octaves and. It's just one of these things where, and I'm a big, believer in it's the fingers. It's these guys playing it. You can get the same guitar, amp, and pedals, but there's something that comes out of Bill and Brent's hands that it's just it's just woolly mammoths.
Yeah,
man,
right.
And here again, you got this just monstrous guitar. I mean, it's just dripping evil,
Yeah.
And then you hit me with this like Miley Cyrus chorus.
Yeah. They were.
What was that? What was that long note chorus? What did you use on that? That was beautiful.
What? I'm trying to think what we used on that. And the thing is with them as singers too. A lot of times we're layering 2, sometimes 3 guys. Because there's 3 singers in that band. Actually. 3. I mean, Troy, the bass player, Bron, the drummer, and Brent. I mean, are all incredible singers. So sometimes it's almost sort of like layering 1 or 2 guys, sometimes 3 guys on a single note to just get something that just doesn't sound. You can't pinpoint what it is.
Right.
But I mean, those guys. I think the songs that they were writing for that in particular record, they were going for something that they hadn't ever done or focused on, and I was just glad, I was along for the ride. Big fan of theirs before it. So
Super cool.
On Hunter, I'm going to shift over to Avenged Sevenfold. We're going to talk a little bit about Hail the King, but my transition is going to be. You've got the hi-hat on the right side, and then you do that again on Avenged Sevenfold. I hate the hi-hat on the right, and I'm mixing a record right now with the hi-hat on the right, and I'm trying to force myself to like it. And it's a great record, by the way, and by a drummer who I'm just amazed with this guy's talent. But I'm more comfortable from the drummer's perspective as opposed to the audience perspective. Why do you? And by the way, Herb, have you noticed lately all the songs we talk about, there's a lot of crap going on the right. Doesn't anybody put anything in the left speaker anymore?
Right. I try and keep it balanced, but I think it's me being a bass player and the focus or me being a fan. And sort of, I always make records where I want to sort of create the visual of them being there and watching it. And I think it's just one of those things where it just feels real to me to sort of visualize the band where the drummer's facing me. And, you know, but it's not anything that's been talked about or that I force anyone to do. It's just so happened, you know, that you know.
Well,
that
on Hail to the King, speaking of the right, that cymbal where he's riding the bell on the cymbal,
Yeah.
that's like just musical.
Oh, man.
It's like in tune too.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
take time to tune it?
You know what? A lot of times we had, you know, Ross Garfield from Drum Doctors was there for all the drum sessions. So with the way that would work is we would pull up, you know, a song, and again we track the drums with every member of the band plugged in and ready to go, and even Matt, you know, M Shadows did all the vocals live to get the drum takes. And so we knew right away whether the snare sound wasn't working, or whether some crashes weren't coming through, or the ride or the bell sound wasn't right. So we could just make split-second decisions on, like, you know, that bell isn't cutting, or it's not doesn't got the beef that we want it to have. And so we would just ask Ross, you know, hey, do you got some? I've got a good collection of cymbals as well, and we would just put it up until we felt like we had the right
next
combo.
time you make a drum kit with him, let us know. I'd love to film that.
You know what? You know, Ross is amazing at getting drum tones.
I've spoken to him about it, but we just haven't had a chance.
You know, I mean, he's legendary. You know,
yeah, he's the best.
You know, I've also used Mike Elizondo, who's also amazing. But with Ross, you know, Ross also, I mean, if we're talking about Hail to the King, we were going for something very specific and bringing back that 90s metal production of drums and guitars and overall just, you know, metal production. So he had that history already, and so we could reference certain records, and he was like, "Oh, well, here's the exact snare that was used on the Black Album, and here's the exact, you know, kit that was used." So, but Adam Hawkins is the engineer that engineered that record.
Oh,
Adam's incredible,
guy.
and I was lucky to have met him, you know, many years ago, and Adam's very, you know, he's created a great space and how he mics things. And
You know, there's about a minute before batter's box. Because you're such a student of your records and the history and so on. What do you listen to? What monitors do you listen on?
you know, right now we've got Adams. I've also, I mean, I'm a big fan of the old Tannoy Super
There you
Bowls
go.
too.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've got Adams. I got some NHTs. You know, just and I've got them in different places in the studio. I've got like my Logic rig where I you know program and do stuff like that. And I've got some NHTs with a little NHT sub. And I've got the Adams. What are they? SA3s? Is that the?
it's either S3 or SA3. I get it confused.
I forget it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you know that model is usually what I have up, and I'll have NS10s up as well. But the Adams are typically what I have.
Go-to.
Yeah, the go-to.
Got it.
When I finished listening to Hail the King, I pulled up my word processor and wrote a letter to the Grammy committee because we need a category for best snare.
Oh man,
Grammy, and the first snare is going to be the snare on that song. That is like Cole and I were coveting that sound. It was just in the biblical sense we were coveting. It was so good.
That's cool. I mean, you know, we spent so much attention on every aspect of the record, but we knew that in order for us to get this right, that the drums had to sound right, and also they were never going to get buried in the mix. Like they needed to be as featured as anything, even more than what most people are probably comfortable mixing rock drums. And the snare, you know, in order to get away with that, they have to sound good, you know. Yep. So again, I feel like that was. We had the vision for it, but it was a collective effort. Everyone started from Ross bringing in drums, the drummer obviously, Aaron, who's amazing, Adam Hawkins, you know, the guys in the band directing it, and then ultimately with Andy Wallace mixing it. Yeah. You're just in great hands to make sure that all gets represented.
I forgot. Another thing you did that was very spectacular, and the breakdown in the bridge, the drums just take a right-hand turn over to the right speaker again, not the left speaker, the right speaker again, Herb. Were all the drums in the right speaker during that breakdown, or just the kick? I know the kick was there, pretty solid. I thought that was so cool.
I want to say that was an Andy Wallace thing. I mean, again, it's one of those things where you might not, the average person might not even pick up on, but you just notice the shift. And that's, you know, and to me, those great bridges are when you just get this feel, this little escape for a little bit, and
absolutely,
you wrap back around.
Absolutely,
you know, but,
absolutely.
You know, it's just, I mean, Andy Wallace, I was fortunate enough for both records that he mixed for Avenged to go there and to sit in with him, because it's not the same. If you're calling it in and phoning it, like to be there and watch it go down,
completely different experience.
It's incredible.
Mr. Pensado, pitcher, got your arm warmed up?
I do. I got one quick one though.
Let's introduce
Brian on the sequencer part on Nightmare. He didn't play that live.
No, that's not sequence. That is guitar. That is him. That's virtuosity.
The man's a machine.
He's amazing. I mean, you know, he's like, I get to be a kid in the candy store working with musicians like you know,
Right.
like Sinister Gates. I mean, Brian, he's, you know, he's into things like Django Reinhardt and, you know, a lot of stuff outside of the box, and his technical, you know, skills on the instrument. I
That's
mean,
pretty impressive.
It's really impressive, and it's actually not only for the timing, but the string. What he's doing between the strings, you know, he's skipping strings, and it's not easy to do.
Wow.
It's not easy to do.
Now, let's introduce Batter's Box.
All
How about
right.
that? All right.
We'll talk about impressive. This could be impressive. I'm
Here
going
we
to
go.
clean your clock.
All
Michael
right, cool.
Elizondo.
Fire away,
Okay,
sir.
okay.
Bass.
Bass.
I'm starting them easy, Herb.
I'm going to say 57P bass through Ampeg B15.
Oh, the old flip top.
Definitely old flip top. I mean, I think that's just, that will win 99% of the time. Like, to me, any genre you can rock that and it's going to work.
Guitar.
Guitar. I'm going to say, you know, it's funny. I've got incredible, I'm very passionate about guitars. I've got some really nice ones. Obviously, Strat and Tellys are great. But I don't know. I love the feel of an SG, an old SG. You know, Gibson. You know, I mean, the early ones were called Les Pauls, but basically the SG guitars are just
Every time I see an SG, I think Back in Black.
Yeah, but there's something about them. Even, you know, actually, that's an SG guitar on In the Club.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
cool,
I was
cool.
trying to do, it's an SG guitar, but I was basically trying to do borrowing from you know, Dave Gilmour, you know, some Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Okay, Mike, you got to shorten these up a little
Okay,
bit.
sorry.
Or I'm
That's
going
all
to
right.
win.
Okay.
No, keep them long. It helps me win. Snare.
snare. I'm just going to go with Black Beauty.
Oh, wow. I was going to say that was a Black Beauty.
Yeah.
Now I'm going long. Sound City.
Wow.
Magic. That place. I miss it, you know. I know Kevin Agunas is taking good care of it, but I miss it,
Very
man.
good care.
Magic.
Yeah. We got to go by there one day.
I'd love to.
Virtual Synth.
Ooh, virtual synth. Yeesh. It changes all the time. I love all the Nexus stuff. That Nexus synth is probably one of the ones that I go to. The which one is it called? I'm drawing a blank now. It's Nexus.
I'll save you. I'll help you
Okay.
out. He actually introduced Dre to virtual synths.
Oh, wow.
I'll take credit for that.
That's a big
Analog
statement.
synth.
Analog synth. You know what? I'm going to say the Jupiter 8.
Okay. Easy one. Plug-in.
Plugin. Ooh. You know what plugin I love, and I put it on almost everything, is actually in Logic. It's the pedal board plugin.
Really?
I run drums through that. I run vocals through that. I do all kinds of stuff with it, and just mix and match some of the you know, it's just a fun thing to just always tweak and mess things up. So I love the pedal board.
Wow.
What's your go-to sequencer programming?
Logic.
Logic.
Yep, and we're updating the Logic 10. Taking that jump. But yeah, I you know, used to be an MPC 3000, but once I saw Logic work, and it basically became a visual MPC for me. So yeah.
Okay, for the jazzers, your favorite scale or mode?
Ooh. I mean, you know what? You can't go wrong with like some harmonic minor. I just say any. I'm a bass player, pentatonic, minor pentatonic.
There you go.
That'll save you every day.
Every time. Every time.
Well, as a guitar player, I would have picked A.
Major. Okay. A major.
Well, how do you do, Herb?
I thought he did really well. I don't think he cleaned his clock, not even close.
Yeah, I think
See,
I hung
he's
in
a
there.
font of information, and we actually limited all the information he was going to come out.
I
So-
wrote the answers out for him in advance.
Oh, that's what it was.
No,
I
I
see.
did not. I did not.
This is a bad boy here.
This is a bad boy.
Let's introduce our friend over in the corner office. He's known by one name, which is Chongor, right? We love
Chong Boy to us.
Yeah, Chong Boy to us. Chongor, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, you got a couple questions for our man,
Got a
Mike?
bunch. We'll get them rolling.
Okay.
This first one's from Dylan Wolf. What elements, both lyrical and musical, do you hone in on and refine when working on another artist's song?
Right. Yeah.
Good question.
Another artist song. I want to make sure that there's a point of view. You know, I want to make sure that there's not just lyrics being thrown around for no reason, just strung together because they maybe sound cool. Like, I mean, I know that there's songs that maybe could be popular for a moment, but I feel like the songs that last are the ones that have a message and have some honesty or some emotional connection. And it could be a dance song or it could be some serious ballad, whatever. I'm always making sure that there's a point of view and that gets across. And I'm always trying to make sure that if an artist gets off track, I'm honest with them and say, you know what, you kind of lost me here, and really try and and that's one of the things that I've constantly I came up as a musician, but lyrics is something over the years that I've realized separates being able to produce vocals and being able to hone in on people's lyrics and be honest with them.
Lyrics?
You know what, I've been a part of. I won't sit down and write lyrics on my own, and I don't necessarily keep a journal. I'll keep like a journal of like song titles or concepts, but
When you collaborate.
but I'll collaborate,
Yeah.
and so and usually we'll pull something out of the conversation, or someone will have a concept that we can all relate to.
Right.
But if it's someone else's song, I just want to make sure that they're staying true to that point of view, and that it's something that feels honest coming from them.
That's a good concept for mixing too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm having a discussion with some friends of ours in Canada and trying to sort of make them understand the song is not a throwaway. You can have great beats, but you can't just attach to any song and somehow you'll make some song better. It's as critical, it's the most critical. If you don't have a great song, then it doesn't matter
Exactly.
what you
Yeah,
have,
because
right?
you can have a hit and it can be popular for a little bit, but we're talking, if you can swing for the fences and have something that's just culturally just gonna be there for years to come, that's what you want.
Chongor.
Jay Wember, are there certain approaches for producing instrumentals that help influence the lyrical and melodic writing process?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain, obviously there's certain chord progressions. Right now there's a couple of chord progressions that are getting really used and overused.
For sure.
But there's a reason for it, And it's funny, I was just talking to my 12-year-old daughter who's starting to get, taking piano lessons, and there's a reason though. There's certain chords that just go a certain place, and I picked up a lot of it on that, even making a lot of the hip hop music that I did with Drake, because M would walk in and Eminem would walk in and say, man, I want to do a song about such and such. And then it's like, okay, well, what sounds could I use? What chords can I go to that would create that scene? So a lot of times it's like sort of a bit of film composing in that sense of like what chords and sounds will create that scene that artist wants to go to. I think that there's, and I always like to throw some tricks in there, some curveballs and things, but ultimately it's about the melody and making sure that there's something that a singer can sing to. I mean, I love, you got amazing, songwriters like, Becker and Fagan. I mean, who can, have huge pop hits, and they're using like jazz chords, and so there's ways to do it. But as long as that melody is what's connecting, then
that's the glue, right?
That's the glue.
Yeah,
but it's fun.
One more, Chongor.
From this one's from Casey Brubaker. From an engineering standpoint, is it important for engineers to have great oral skills?
I think what he means to us. So in terms of being able to talk theory or talk,
Yeah, it's a dangerous question to ask if the engineer needs to have great oral skills. That's a context issue right there.
I'm going to assume
Only you would go to that context.
Maybe there's something secret there. Why don't you answer it and I'll stay away from it?
I'm always, I grew up learning, theory and harmony, and I think it's definitely great to have that skill. Is it necessary? I wouldn't say it's totally necessary.
Right.
But it's one of those things that really you can help pinpoint where some problems might be. And whether you're an engineer or a producer, to just be able to go, why isn't that working? Something's off here. And to be able to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's because that note's clashing with that note. And if you understand, have a basic grasp of theory and harmony, you'll start to be able to dissect what might not be working sometimes. But
I've got two questions before we say goodbye. One is, we're so glad you came.
Thank you. I am too.
We track the requests that we have for people, and the Mike Elizondo list is huge.
It wasn't that many because I
most of them were probably coming from Dave.
That's right. I was about to say about 3/4 of those.
And my mom.
I wrote a little program that just over and over and over
just kept going, and then I would call David and go, God, Mike Elizondo's request.
Mike's a dear true friend, and I was calling him Mike like anytime somebody wouldn't make it, I'd call him Mike.
No, I know, because I'd get the call afterwards. I called Mike. You can't do it. I called Mike. So we've been chasing you.
He's been real patient with that.
To that end, we do a lot of things off the show where we've been really blessed, where incredibly talented people like you have come out and talked to our audience and helped teach them. Can we bug you for one of those?
I would love it. I love doing that kind of stuff.
Done.
It's that instant interaction, and listen, I feel like music is supposed to be shared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no secrets. It's all about what you do with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like things that were passed down to me from amazing producers and musicians that I was blessed to come into contact with. I still hold on to this day, and,
Yeah.
and create who I am as a creative person. And anytime I can maybe hope to, pass that on to anyone, I mean, to me, that's the reward.
Look for the black dude in the green shirt on your phone.
Okay.
Coming at you soon. We have this incredible community. The other thing, too, is please say hello to our mutual friend, Kevin Dukes.
Kevin Dukes.
He was formative in my
Rust.
career coming up. This boy absolutely is a wicked guitar player.
Absolutely.
And back
And
when I was coming as a young manager, he was a guy in a band full of misfits that I loved, but had a longer view. And we would talk theory and how we would get to certain points.
Absolutely.
He's a bad boy.
And he's a beast on the bike, too. That's
I
where
bet he is.
We ride bikes together.
Oh,
all the
yeah,
time.
we'll talk about
While
it.
we're shouting out, let's give your engineer a shout out because you've been with him a long time and he's a true.
Well, there's
gift
two
to the
people I like
profession.
to. Yeah,
Please
I
do,
mean,
shout
Adam
out.
Hawkins is just an unbelievable, partner. I consider him a partner in everything that I do. Musically, we just. Not to get cheesy, but he completes me.
There you go.
But no, he's just he gets it, man, and he's
Yeah.
quick and he's smart and he's a lot of he's just a good dude to have in the studio.
Yeah.
Also, Brent Arrowwood, who basically runs every part of what I do in the studio in terms of everything from setting up my Logic rig, getting me new soft synths, fixing bugs with Logic or Pro Tools, setting up the studio. Assistant engineer, engineer, everything. So
Can't
Brent
do it without
Arrowwood
him. Can't do it without him.
he's a treasure as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, you're only as good as your team.
That's right. Every time.
So
David, take us home.
Okay. Whew, we got a lot in that hour.
Slid into home.
Yeah, for me that was so much fun. I tell you what, I've known this cat for a long time. He's been someone I've admired and tried to pattern a lot of what I do after him. And one of the things I want you to take away from Mike's visit is just the passion. He'd do it free. He's done it free, and that that the love that he has for this precious commodity we call music is beyond question. We can't get in everything he's done. He's done Maroon 5. He's done so many things. Alanis Morissette, Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
Google him. I tell you to do this a lot, guys. Now, don't let me down. Go Google Mike and study his records because you'll find the one thread that goes throughout everything he does is taste. And he's got the best taste of anybody I know. He's got the hits to prove it. And it was a real pleasure for me to hang with him today. So we'll see you next week. We got a great show for you next week, by the way.
We do. Young Guru.